What is your this, I'm out moment? When I was a kid I worked at a yard and garden / craft store as a carry out. During the summer it was all about loading up customers' cars with sod, river stones, soil, plants and paving stones. In the winter it was Christmas trees. First year was great, my boss was amazing, and the staff all generally got along. Second year he transferred out, and his replacement was horrible. Sales started to dip. She joked about laying people off. Freezing because you've been loading Christmas trees outside for 4 hours in -30°C. Tough. Sick. Too bad you came and you're staying. Want some water because you're loading cars in 30° heat. Nope. Just a generally mean person. It got to the point where I was the only full-time daytime carry-out left. Then one day I finish a shift feeling like I'd been kicked in the nuts. The pain just gets worse and doesn't stop. So I go and see my doctor. Turns out I'd torn my groin muscle. He gives me a week off and gives me a script for 2 weeks of light duties. When I get back, go and give my boss the script, she screams at me for causing her extra work and tells me to get out of her sight. Get back after the week and school's out, so we have tons of staff. I figure I'll be doing light duties. Nope. Back to the loading area lifting paving stones. Didn't bother punching out, and as the loading area for customers is right up front, I just walk out and keep going. The company as a whole went bankrupt a few years later. Actually ended up working with someone who happened to be a manager at another location and knew the situation at my old store. Turns out my former boss was fired after almost 60 people quit between June and October of that year. Frank's Nursery and Crafts. I had almost the same job when I was 16, but our boss was nice, albeit embezzling. It was White Rose Home and Garden. Pretty big in Ontario from what I remember. In 2011 or so, when companies taking advantage of the desperate eon of the unemployed was in full swing, the recession was on pretty hard at that time. I found myself working for a temp agency that supplied day laborers. We had to come in every day as early as possible. They opened at 5 and get your name on the list. If they got a call in from someone who needed temp workers, they called out names on the list. If you were there, you got the job for the day. They'd only call you out once though. Say you were outside having a cig or going to the bathroom. Tough. Furthermore, inside this place were chairs bolted to the ground facing a TV playing a safety training video on loop all day. So, one day, I actually managed to land a job. Yay. Other side of the city. I had to drive myself. Okay fine. I get there. We spooled power cables onto giant pallets for 8 hours. End of the day. They'll send us a check. A week later, I get it. It was minimum wage, and then the company took their fee out afterwards, so you ended up getting paid, essentially, $2 below minimum wage. That's when I said, F this, I'm out. About 2 years later, I got something in the mail about a class action lawsuit against them. I can't remember what it detailed exactly, but of course I signed in on it, because F them. 6 years later, like literally a few months ago, I finally got the payout. $8. The end. $8. Worth it. In high school I was a nanny for this family during the day. Then the mom would drop me off at Cold Stone, my first real job. The assistant manager who was always there was a completely horrid person. Looking back, she had to have been under 24 at the time. She was rude, went in back, smoked pot on job, invited guys to come and hang with her, and they were always kinda sketchy. She had it out for me. I was the first time employee who was trying to do a great job. I remember dreading going to work and getting that pit in my stomach because I was so terrified of her. She would always threaten to cut my hours or just do things to screw me over. One day, the mom was late to get me and drop me off at work. She came in with me. She knew I was scared of this girl and would get yelled at. She went up and apologized for me, said it was completely her fault. I nanny her kids. She got stuck in traffic. It won't happen again, but please don't take it out on me. This girl loses her mind. She calls the mom a b to her face, told her to F off, and went on some rant that I don't remember because I was in utter shock. Lol. The mom looked at me and said, "You done here? I think you're done here." Turns to this crazy girl and goes, "You are the rudest person I've ever met. I'm sorry for how insecure you must be to act like this." She quits. She grabbed my arm and we stormed out. I was shocked and horrified. At the time I thought she had ruined my career lol by quitting my first job for me. Looking back I think it's hysterical and wish I had a recording of it. So glad she went in with you. That's a second mom, if I ever met one. Do you still keep in contact with her? She sounds lovely. Absolutely. She's one of a kind lol. Had been telling my boss that there was an error on the website that I cannot fix because I don't have the permissions. I mentioned this several times to him. It would take him one phone call to get it straightened out. BTW. The owner notices this error, not only calls me out in front of the whole department about not caring about my job and taking advantage of his kindness, but also makes it a point to tell me I should thank my boss for having my back. It was the last straw placed on a huge pile of awfulness. I quit the next day. And that's why you tell your boss through email/ticketing system only. I don't do without paper trail. 100% this. And even when you create a paper trail and then the person you are communicating with walks over and says something like it's easier just to talk in person, you should always comment on the email chain solved offline. Decided to. And also never delete your emails completely, or at least archive them first, but I'm lazy, so I just leave them in my inbox. There have been so many times where an email from 9 months ago that was trivial at the time saved my ass. Can CC the boss too, if it's a big thing. It'll get fixed real quick. CC your boss judiciously, that is annoying and often done for petty issues that aren't actually important. Do it too much and it's ineffective and you'll get a bad reputation. I've heard it called torpedo email. Yeah, I hate when people do that. If it's not a follow up. If I fucked up I'll own it, but don't give me that shit on the first email. I was checking my trail camera for my master's thesis. Where I had them there was nothing too big, just coyotes and bobcats. There was always rumors of a mountain lion, but not much credit to them. While I was walking to one of my trail cameras that was placed under a big oak. As I walk, I hear the branches snap and a dead deer falls from the tree and hits the ground. I decided to stop my field work and head on home. My other story was again me checking cameras, but this time around I knew mountain lions were around. If only they ever show up on camera it would be great. I was checking one of them as it was getting dark when I heard a lion call from my left, followed by a lion responding on my right. I was on a ravine, so it's hard to judge distance, and it didn't sound very close, but I decided to promptly nope out of there. Did you check to make sure it wasn't just a suicidal deer? I was not gonna go anywhere near that tree. Some death owl you are. Username doesn't check out. Ah yes, the depressed whitetail and its opposable hooves. I'd be terrified, because they are known you stalk prey for days and learn patterns. Do you carry a gun when you go out? Can't, as I'm here as a non-permanent resident for now. I carry bear spray and a fixed blade. I was 15 working at a gas station. I wasn't scheduled to work that day and my sister was in town. I hadn't seen her for about a year. Boss called and said someone called in sick and he needs me to come into work. In the past I had been very accommodating as it was about a block from my house and easy for me to get there fast. This time I told him I couldn't come in that day because of my sister being in from out of town. I'll always remember this. He says, what's more important? Your sister or your job? F this. I'm out. Similar. Worked pumping gas at 15. This was in NJ where it is full serve only and back when pumps were mechanical and didn't shut off at a set dollar amount. You also had to imprint credit cards and write out the charge slip by hand. Place was on the road to the beach on Memorial Day weekend. Other guy on the shift was a no-show. All of the pumps were 5 cars deep all day. I single-handedly pumped an entire tanker truck worth of gas, 9,000 gallons. Full on running for 8 hours. No thanks. F***er fired me for my efforts because some old lady complained that I helped another customer before her. Dude, this job was the same thing gas jockey at a full service place. Sounds like getting fired was the best thing that could happen to you. I'm surprised you're still not allowed to pump your own gas in New Jersey. I think if you're the only state that restricts something, maybe it should be reconsidered. Oregon also. Went to a friend's birthday party at his favorite club. Found out he'd not only invited my abusive ex, but also paid for her train ticket to come up and see him. One of my good friends let me know that she was there, and the friend I rode with was like, nope. F this. We're out, and we went back home. A similar thing happened to me about 10 years ago, except no one warned me. My good friend called me to meet up with him and a few of our other friends at a bar downtown. I had nothing better to do, so I did. Walked into the bar and lo and behold, there was my ex-girlfriend, who just 2 weeks earlier I had to call the cops on to get her to leave my front door, where she was crying hysterically and making threats. My good friend was my roommate at the time. He knew he was starting trouble, and the shit-eating grin on his face was a full admission. I turned to him, said really, and punched him in the face. Not super hard, just hard enough to knock him down. Then I turned around and walked out. He called me that night and apologized. The crazy ex-girlfriend ended up marrying another friend of mine who died of cancer earlier this year. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I wasn't ready for all of this. This wasn't an emotional roller coaster, more like an emotional kamikaze. When a coworker violently punched a dent into a freezer when I told him to shut up after months of him harassing me, and I was reprimanded. The director got a nice report after that, and he was fired 2 weeks later. Had a similar thing happen to me. I had already put in my 2 weeks notice as I was sick of the toxic culture. I was sick of getting bullied, so told a coworker to shut up, piss off, and just let me finish my work in peace. They went and cried to the boss, who told me to go home for my final 2 weeks as they didn't want me back, quote, causing problems. As if standing up to workplace bullying was the problem. A win in the end, I guess, as I didn't have to work for my final paycheck. Good. That's a win. Yeah, I was annoyed at the time as I had worked there 4 years and was a good employee. I always had good numbers, and I know I was more efficient than a lot of the other workers. To be told to go home because I was causing trouble, even though I was minding my own business, pissed me off to no end. But in the end it gave me time to look for another job, and I was offered a better paying job with a much better work culture around 6 weeks later. I wish I had quit sooner. F my old boss, and f that bully. My bucket, I'm out moment was a few days earlier when in the middle of a work day I just said to myself, what am I doing? F this, and went in and resigned. Spur of the moment. Nothing specific happened to cause it. I just realized I was severely unhappy there, and I had enough savings to survive for a while without regular work.